On day 5, I crossed off another bucket list item. Lep Castle? Check.
It is August 12th, I think. I went to Bunratty Castle medieval banquet last night and had a fantastic time. I met some really cool people. Then we went out to Dirty Nelly's after. Right now I'm driving to Rosscray. I'm going to Lep Castle. It is something I've always wanted to do ever since I saw it on a million ghost shows. I think the first time I saw it was on Ghost Hunters, though. Terrifying. The stories are brutal and bloody. I don't know what to expect at this site. It's not an official site. Like, it's just some guy that owns the castle that hangs out there from 10 to 5 every day, and you can pay €6 and just take a tour around the castle and like see what you see. It's self-guided, and since I'm by myself, I'm a little freaked out. You know, it's probably not the safest, but I mean, lots of people do this. But it's been on every iteration of my itinerary. It's been on there, so I think it's important that I go, even if it's a weird ass situation. I just leave.
Exit at junction 23, then turn left onto R445.
Alright, well, I guess we're turning off at one go.
Lep Castle, outside Coolderry in County Offaly, is said to be the most haunted castle in Ireland. With its long history of tragedy and bloodshed, it is no wonder why. The name Lep Castle comes from an old legend that tells of two brothers of the O'Bannon clan who were fighting over who was to be the next chieftain. It was decided that a feat of strength and bravery was to decide the outcome of their dispute. It was simple. The brothers were to jump off the rocky outcrop where the castle was to be built, and whoever lived would be the next chieftain. And that is how it got the name O'Bannon's Leap. The castle was built somewhere between 1250 and 1500. There are varying stories, but it seems most likely that it was built on the site of a previous structure. The current main tower house was probably built by the O'Bannons in the 15th century and then taken over by the O'Carrolls, the most powerful clan in the area. It's also interesting enough to note that there is evidence that the site has been in continuous use since the Iron Age, and maybe even before. It was used by Druids as a ceremonial site for initiations. The O'Carroll clan were said to be fierce and ruthless, bent on a quest for power and domination. They often would strike down one of their own to get ahead. There are many terrible legends associated with the O'Carrolls and their castle, but one of the most famous is the story of the Bloody Chapel. After the death of the great Mulrooney O'Carroll, chieftain of the O'Carroll clan in 1532, his sons were thrown into a vicious struggle for power. Who would be the next chieftain? One of Mulrooney's sons, the priest, would often hold mass in the chapel. One day, while performing the rites, one of his brothers arrived late and found that the ceremony had already begun without him. He took that as a great insult, and in a rage drew his sword and ran his brother through. The priest died right there, by his brother's hand, slumped over the altar. And that is why it is known today as the Bloody Chapel. However, this is not the only reason for that name. In 1922, while the castle was undergoing renovations, a grisly discovery was made. Skeletons in the wall, lots of them, 3 carts full. In the Bloody Chapel, there is a small opening that leads to a shaft or small dungeon called an oubliette, which, in the words of Hoggle from Labyrinth, is a place to put people to forget about them. Dead or almost dead people would have been shoved into the hole, and if they weren't dead when they went in, they would be when they landed on the spikes 8 feet below. The oubliette was supposedly out of use since the O'Carrolls' time. However, in 1922, during the Darby's ownership, when they were clearing the bones, a pocket watch that was dated to 1840 was found. These are just 2 of the most famous tales Leap has to tell, but there are many more. Among the ghosts of Leap Castle are the specter of a governess and 2 young girls, Emily and Charlotte, a peaceful old man that hangs out by the fire, a barely clothed woman that screams in grief for her murdered baby, but worst of all, the elemental, a ghastly, stinking creature that is said to have been born out of the place's tragedy and evil deeds. Leap Castle's history is more grisly than any episode of Game of Thrones and more horrifying than any horror film. It is truly the stuff of nightmares and not for the faint of heart. As for my time at Leap, it was actually quite pleasant. The owner, Sean Ryan, is a really nice guy. He knows every little thing about the castle and the area, and it was lovely chatting with him. I explored for about an hour on my own, examining every nook and cranny. I kept having to remind myself that all of the furnishings were brought in by Sean, as there was nothing left after it was destroyed in the 1920s during the Irish War of Independence. As for ghosts, I I didn't see or hear anything strange. I even examined my photos hoping to have found something, but nada. The only thing is that I kind of felt weird in the Bloody Chapel, but it's an old, crumbly part of the castle that hasn't been renovated, and I was pretty anxious about falling through the floor or out one of the windows that had no glass. And as much as I wish I had a story to tell, the ghosts wanted nothing to do with me. But it was noonish on a bright, sunny August morning, and I'm curious what my experience would be were I to be there longer or brave enough to try my luck after dark. Next time.
Head north on R421 toward Leap.
Of the cliffs of Moher booked, and I was not about to miss going out on the ocean. Not even for Leap Castle. The cliffs of Moher are very high, and I decided the best way for me to experience them was from below and very far away. I walked down the short lane from my B&B to McDermott's Pub, where I enjoyed some of the best fish and chips I've ever had. Still can't do the mushy peas though. Sorry, Ireland. I tried. Yesterday, I spent the day working on this video, and as I did, I remembered that I have relatives from Roscrea. When I first began researching the McCombs family from Roscrea in the early 1800s, I hit a bunch of dead ends. So I thought I would check in before I finished this. And sure enough, there was lots more information. Solid information. Censuses, birth certificates, and lots more. Enough to start putting the pieces together so I can learn about their lives. Today I learned that my 5th great-grandparents, Thomas McCombs and Elizabeth Brooks McCombs, lived with their 11 children, including my 4th great-grandmother, Bridget McCombs, in the Roscrea area only about a 9-minute drive away in a town called Killavilla. I'm gutted that I didn't know this before. When I was in Ireland, I was right there. When I discovered this, I cross-checked my DNA matches on Ancestry with shared ancestors, and I found an O'Carroll connection. Interesting. It might turn out to be nothing, but if I can trace my ancestry to the O'Carrolls of Lepp, that would be so exciting in like a creepy, morbid way. Totally, like, I get that it's weird to make a video about a terrifyingly murderous family and then say, I hope we're related. Obviously, that's not good. But finding familial connections in historical people and places has become a bit of a fascination or obsession, whatever you want to call it. As an adopted person, I spent a lot of my life grieving the fact that I didn't know who I came from or where I came from. So discovering my ancestors is kind of a lifelong dream, and it makes me feel tied to this world and to history in a way I haven't been able to so far. So even if a branch of that tree is murderous, I guess. But let's be honest, today most of the great men we revere in history were essentially just serial killers and mass murderers. Looking at you, Columbus, who, as far as I know, I have no relation to, so